F1 season is well upon us once again, and with so much interest in the sport these days, I'm often reminded of a beaut of a title that came out on the Sega Saturn all the way back in 1995 in Japan and early 96 for us Europeans. The Sega Saturn was blessed with many racing games, with Daytona USA leading the charge on launch day with its amazing arcade-accurate gameplay, through to the incredible Sega Rally, which gave us a glimpse of what the Saturn was really capable of if a team was given the appropriate amount of time to work their magic. So with stock car and rally racing covered, how about a bit of Formula 1? Sega always did feel like they had a connection to the sport, with races from my youth emblazoned with the Sega logo everywhere, and this particularly legendary trophy always standing out to me in my mind. It was the most exhilarating stuff I'd ever seen on TV, up until Lucy Verasamy stole its crown when she cropped up and started telling us about her warm front. Anyway, F1. So how about it, Sega? Enter F1 Challenge, an officially licensed F1 game based on the 1995 season. Let's see what it's all about. Branded with the Sega Sports logo, right out the gate, things are looking good, with the car selection menu featuring the ability to pick from 5 of the official drivers of the time, and the cars are exquisitely detailed, with some fine texture work capturing the look of each team's appearance perfectly. It's a shame the full complement weren't included, especially as this is an officially licensed product, but all the teams and vehicles are actually included despite not all of them being playable. And for the player selection, they do hit some of the biggest names of the era, so it's not all bad. With your driver picked, you then need to choose a course, and the game has 6 tracks on offer, starting with 3 real-world locations including Hockenheim, Suzuka and Monte Carlo. But to bolster things further, Sega have then created the fictional Neo City, which has 3 routes ranging from novice through to expert, much in the style of Sega's arcade games. What's really awesome is this 3D garage setup where you can tinker with your car in order to strike your preferred balance for the car's performance. With all the considerations of a real team, you adjust wing setups and tyre grip, as well as looking to get the weight right with how much fuel you have on board while taking into account race length. It may be relatively primitive by today's standards, but this is a great early glimpse of a developer getting the ball rolling. And with the arcadey games we come to expect of the era, this was probably in the right ballpark for ticking off the tinkering hijinks without getting overly complex. But let's get into the meat of the action. Jumping into your first race, things feel great, with the game looking the part and the atmosphere well captured. The gameplay is on point with the car handling well, and the 2 different viewpoints ensuring whichever preference you have is catered for. I'd imagine big F1 fans might go for the in-car view for the authentic race experience, and coupling this with Sega's steering wheel peripheral enhances that, with gear shifting set to the paddles on the back and the game programmed to take full advantage of the device. One thing to note is that you have a rear view mirror on screen, which you can turn on and off at your own discretion. However, as cool as it is, I would recommend disabling it, purely for the fact that it seems to tank the 30 frames a second update down to what feels more like 15 to 20, thus taking away a lot from the gameplay. A nice feature, but not one worth suffering for, unfortunately. One thing to keep an eye out for is the condition of your tyres, which seem to deteriorate at quite a pace. You'll need to change them once they begin to wear, or your car can begin to slide quite notably. Early on, it almost feels like you're power sliding in the manner of Sega's usual arcade offerings, which is kind of fun in a way. However, push it too far and things go very wayward, with the car soon becoming an out of control mess that's near impossible to steer, so keep a watch out for that and make sure to make regular pit stops to keep their health up. And they're gonna need it, as a variety of tracks on offer ensure that your driving abilities are tested to the full. While the more open likes of Suzuka only have a handful of twists and turns to be aware of, by the time you get to the likes of Monte Carlo, you really need to be on your game, with your judgment for braking and turning well tested to avoid bouncing off the walls like a ping pong. On my first few tries, my driving was the worst thing that this track had seen since Herbie came to visit in 1977. The Neo City tracks are a lot of fun, and the range of difficulties mean you can pick the track best suited to your mood or abilities. If you're after a more chilled race, the novice route is a fun, easy-going affair, but by the time you play through to expert, the difficulty is ramped up accordingly, and your racing credentials better be ready because you're gonna get tested on this one. All in all, a fun and well-balanced selection of races. And while the sights of Neo City are not nearly as memorable or iconic as Sega's big hitters such as Daytona or Sega Rally, they do a good enough job of adding to the overall package in fine fashion. Still, I can't help but feel that if they'd only made the obvious step of adding a huge statue of Prime Terry Hatcher to the trackside scenery, this would have not only seared the game into the minds of the masses, but also would have guaranteed Sega's first trillion seller. How'd they miss that one? Graphically, the game is solid. The draw distance is pretty decent, with well realised tracks full of detail all ticking over at a consistent 30 frames a second, and the game features a nice skybox with a real three-dimensional appearance rather than the usual flat backdrop. Perhaps not quite up to the standards set by racers such as Sega Rally, but in the limited field of F1 games on Sega's 32-bit wonder, this game more than does the job of portraying the appearance of the motorsport in fine fashion. A hearty thumbs up in this area. Sound-wise, the game is pretty solid, with the sound effects of the cars doing a decent job of capturing the roar of the cars, and has all the bells and whistles, such as passing other vehicles that you would need to garner a sense of being there in the moment. The sense of a car drawing in behind you is heightened notably while playing on headphones, as I could hear them drawing nearer, and the sound of a car really bearing down on you adds a particularly dramatic edge as the pressure mounts on you. While it's mostly great, the smack of the impacts can get perhaps a little tiring on more weaving courses, but in a way, it served as inspiration to get better as you strive to avoid having to hear it by improving your driving, so for me, it actually served a good purpose. Musically, the racing tunes have quite a bit of life to them, but as I understand it, are perhaps not everyone's cup of tea. While they would serve an arcade environment well with their high energy and pace, I wonder if they might be suited to other races. For F1, I almost feel like it would be better, from a purist point of view, for there to be no music at all. But I can understand with Sega's arcade heritage that a driving back in OST was always par for the course back in those days. And to be honest, as an arcade goer growing up with Sega's coin-ops, I loved it. And I was seriously feeling some of the tunes in this one. Seeing Richard Jacks of Sonic R fame credited here explained a lot. Good stuff in my books. What's really interesting about this game is that in Japan, F1 Challenge was rebranded as F1 Live Information, as the game featured a running commentary providing the player with updates about every element of the race. A very cool idea, and one that was pretty unique back at the time. Overall, the game is a great alternative to the more well-known big hitters on the Sega Saturn. It received favourable review scores, generally around the 80% mark, and was a welcome addition to the console's racing catalogue. With stock car, motorbikes and rally well catered for, if it's F1 action you're hankering for, this game has you well covered. It's a great game that has many hours of enjoyment, and does a sterling job of capturing the motorsport well on the Sega Saturn. And while later efforts on rival platforms such as F1 97 and its follow-ups perhaps moved the goalpost as Psygnosis went on their rampage of churning out hit after hit on Sony's console, F1 Challenge still holds its own. Give it a go people, because it's well worth it. Thanks for watching, and as always, take it easy gaming guys and girls, and keep it locked here on Gaming for Ages for more retro goodness soon. Laters.